For the next meeting, I think we can get to this one.
Comments from the director? Nobody's listening to me.
Refill the stack.
Yeah.
I am.
Wow.
She means business.
I
folks.
do. Thank you. I didn't want to yell, but I can. Do I have any comments from the directors?
No.
I just want to say one thing. John did an amazing job at the GMVA board meeting the other night. So I'll tell him again when he gets here, but I just want to
Yeah.
let you know,
Right.
it's just really great.
Big audience. We probably had 70 people in
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Wow,
We gave out scholarships. We had 25 scholarships.
Wow.
Recipients.
$1,000 fees too.
Well, no, they rank from 500 to 3,000.
Oh.
Any adjustments? All right, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve that, or there was some question with some minutes?
I move to accept the items on the consent agenda.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Second.
Did he come on vacation?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's get this done fast before he changes his mind.
Too late.
Aye.
Okay. It's all in good nature.
Yep.
So now on to our regular agenda, the acceptance of the qualification statements, bonds, oaths, and office and affidavits of current director for Directors Gaynor and Hofstetter.
If you want me to go ahead and roll through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Item 15, all the way down through 15, I can go ahead and do that.
You take it.
All right. So item 9 is to accept Aaron and Neil's documents to be reseated as directors for the 26th through 2030 term. Need a motion on that.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right, next, elections not to disclose. These are the new elections from Neil and Aaron for your new terms of office. We have a motion to accept those elections.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the next two items, officers of the board and trustees, y'all didn't have any changes on your board, so unless you want to make a change on your officer positions, there's no action that needs to be taken.
Whatever, we had no change.
No change?
All right, and then for trustees, same drill.
Same drill.
I'd like to withdraw my name for consideration. I think there's more qualified people to be the alternate trustee.
Okay, so
Sure.
that would mean we have a vacancy on first alternate. So we need a nomination for first alternate.
My travel schedule is difficult.
Oh,
You have a,
okay,
if we have a second alternate, that's fine.
I'll be the first alternate.
okay. Would you consider a second then?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so we got a nomination for first alternate and then second alternate. So Deborah as first alternate, Ron as second alternate, nominated by Neil. Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 13, district registration form. We need to update that to reflect the new terms of office for Aaron and for Neil. Do we have a motion on the updated form?
So moved.
Second. Oh. You
All
beat
those in
me.
favor?
Aye.
All right, 14, no actions necessary since there was no change on the board. 15, there's a memo in your packet regarding cybersecurity and artificial intelligence training. If you you're now required to complete the cybersecurity training regardless of whether you use a district computer system or not. If you do use a district computer system for 25% or more of your duties, which, folks could say, well, is the Wi-Fi system the computer system? Maybe. I'm not a techie, but you could say that. Is accessing the Google Drive use of a district computer system? Maybe. So use your best judgment, but if you feel like you're close, go ahead and watch them both. There are free training options listed in the memo. Shelley's going to email y'all an electronic version, so you don't have to type in all the question marks and equal signs and stuff. Make it a little bit easier to be able to click to the link. So a couple of differences between this training and the PIA and Open Meetings Act training. Number one, it's an annual requirement. So whether you do one or both of the trainings, you have to do it each year. The first deadline is August 31st. So I'd say do it sooner rather than later for the first year. And then we'll probably be putting this on agendas going forward around this time of year as a reminder for the next deadline cycle to complete it. So that's one difference. The second difference is that according to some directors we've heard from who've already completed the training, there's not a certificate of completion like there is for the PIA and Open Meetings Act training. So we're just going to go on the honor system and email Shelley, let her know when you completed the training, whether you did just cybersecurity or cybersecurity in AI, and that will evidence your completion for the 26th fiscal year. That's all I have under item 15. Happy to answer questions if you have them. Back over to you.
Thank you. Item 16, consider and act on trail modifications included in proposal from the CT Gooding with Bike the Woodlands, pages 18 through 41.
Yeah,
Okay,
last month it was brought up, we put it on the agenda this month, so we didn't really talk much about it last month, so it is on the agenda for consideration, but we need to hear kind of the details.
okay,
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm here with Tricia, our president of Bike Woodlands Coalition, and I'm CT Gooding, the vice president, Bike Woodlands Coalition.
You stand up,
you want to come up here?
come
so we
up
can
closer
hear
to
you?
the mic.
Where's the microphone? Right here. Yeah, so we have a map that we were able to generate here, overlaying the mud ditches with an overall concept plan that Bike the Woodlands envisions for expanding the trail system for enhanced connectivity throughout the Grogan's Mill, Montgomery County, and Northern Harris County area. So in the green kind of lines are some existing pathways. There's an existing pathway that runs along the 9x3 ditch on the northern section up there. There's a park up there, and it runs all along the drainage ditch and stops where the red line begins. So it does not continue south of there, but it does run all the way north. You can kind of see the park in the top right corner up there.
Yeah, Maplewood Park.
Yep. So great amenity, and so our vision is to continue that pathway that exists there along the drainage way, continuing south. The great thing about what that would enable is connectivity to Sawdust Road and the amenities that are along there. The Sawdust Park and Ride that exists further south there. Some other commercial amenities and also homes as you get into southern part of Grogan's Mill. And then while I recognize this starts to get outside of the jurisdiction of MUD 6, I want to make sure you see the overall concept. As we begin to get to the most southern portion, we get connectivity into a whole host of trails that are existing and also to be developed in this area. One big one is the Spring Creek Greenway Trail, which is a paved trail that runs all the way from Highway 59, and it's comes here to the ExxonMobil campus and continues there. That's going to run all the way up through the Woodlands, through George Mitchell, all the way over to Burroughs Park and potentially further along. So this would provide connectivity for those in the Grogan's Mill area to this amazing amenity, whereas otherwise your only connectivity is at Gosling and Kirkendall to those amenities. Also on the northern side of the creek, our friends at Bayou Land Conservancy have easements along the north side of the creek and have unpaved trails that run from Highway 49 or I-45 there all the way to Burroughs Park as well. And so great set of amenities. There's also Montgomery County Preserve there. So we're also talking to the county and the township. There's many different entities involved in this to make this full vision come to fruition. But a big portion is being able to come down that drainage way and continue to give access to some of these great amenities. This is also a project that was part of the Woodlands Pedestrian and Bicycle Master Plan and identified as part of that study that was done in 2016, and identified this as a great need, especially for the connectivity to the park and ride and being able to have access to that. So what I'm hoping to accomplish today with the conversation is one, sharing this vision and concept and making sure I can answer any questions that you might have about it. And then also, assuming there is support, we would love to be able to move towards getting easement access to be able to further work towards building, constructing, and having maintenance by the township of this new extension to the trailway system. And then the second thing would be understanding what capabilities and abilities you guys have around funding for these kind of things. So, any questions I can answer?
Here, please. Just want to look at the, where the Loggers Hollow ditch and the 9X3 ditch meet. That's, those two path, the pathway from Maywood Park that's up the very top there, and then meets with the Loggers Hollow trail and kind of does a bit of a U-turn. To get from the west side of the 9X3 ditch to the east will require some kind of pedestrian / bike bridge. And this is part of the Woodlands scope of, or concept, if you will, of this need to build that bridge across there.
Yeah, that would have to be assessed to see. There are, best case scenario, yes, you'd have some sort of pedestrian bridge or crossing. And some, depending on what kind of concrete is in there in the ditch at that location, some places have a safe passing where you can, as long as the water is low enough that you can go down into the drainage way on the concrete and up. That's not preferred. And you see that more often in unpaved trails. Like you'll see that in George Mitchell Nature Preserve, where you go down to the creek bed and come up, and it can be a little rough or steep, but you're on a mountain bike and you're prepared for that. So that would not be ideal here. Ideally, yes, there would need to be some sort of ditch crossing at that location.
Yeah, we have an example in for that Loggers Hollow trail coming from South Mill Bend. The trail is on the west side of Loggers Hollow ditch until you get to Crystal Lake, and then the trail utilizes the bridge going across Crystal Lake, the ditch on Crystal Lake Road, and then it's on the east side of Loggers Hollow ditch after that, heading towards the southeast. So there is an example, but this is going to be a different circumstance entirely, I think. And I'm not terribly convinced of the idea of having a little dive in the ditch.
Yeah, not the preferred choice at all. Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, you presented a concept similar to this to the Grogan'sville Village Association.
Yes.
What was the response you got?
Yes, so I did present to the Grogan'sville Village Association. Aaron was there for that presentation as well. And from their perspective, they were supportive of this initiative and happy to support it going forward as well.
Was that support in a financial manner or just in a?
We have not asked for a financial commitment at this time. No.
So obviously the conversation of impact to drainage came up in the past. Based on the revision in the concept, do you foresee any challenges, or what would be your additional impression on?
Well, at that point, it was talking about, building something maybe under a bridge to get under, and my concern was certainly any obstructions within the drainage ditch. My concerns now, if that's not the case, the other thing that we would want to make sure of is, depending on the location of the path itself, if it's up on the said maintenance berm of the ditch, then, what material it is it how wide, how much maintenance berm do we have? Will there be any impact to the operation of the ditch itself? Even if it's up on top of the bank, just making sure, and we have paths all over the Woodlands. Some are concrete, some are townships, some are on top of the bank, some are decomposed granite. So there's a lot of different variations. And the variations are related to the existing conditions of that ditch, because sometimes a ditch has a much wider maintenance berm, some have narrower ones. So it just kind of depends on the specifics of this alignment as to what we might want to see here in terms of, what gets built. I would also ask the question of who's gonna maintain it, who's gonna build it, who's, who, and obviously we would need encroachments, things like that to paper it up. But also the maintenance responsibility, I think, needs to be papered up. And then as long as we can get past that and then make sure that, and the material, the exact location and those types of things will not create any impacts to the drainage, then I don't have an issue. So a lot of things need to be worked out in those terms, but, and other than that, I don't have any. Now, you talk about some kind of crossing and those types of things, I think you're gonna want, if that were to happen, you're gonna want it such that it is, again, not impeding the drainage function of the facility.
Right.
So it needs to be up and over, not down and in. So in general, so, and as he mentioned, that is true. There's, especially on that ditch, there are we call them drop structures, but along that ditch, there's structures to where if you're looking at the profile of it, the slope paving comes down the slope, goes across and comes back up. So, oftentimes people do utilize those to cross if the water's low enough, whether it's on foot or on bike. So they're already in place. Yeah, just like that. So
This is the exact location. At
Yeah,
the
that's right.
they use that already. Now, to your point, sometimes they can be steeper than others. But as long as we're not building anything in the way of the ditch, generally it's, and the maintenance is covered, by someone else perhaps, but that's your.
And,
Go ahead.
and CT, I thought I saw in your drawing, is there still a portion of that proposed trail that we're unclear who owns?
That's what I was fixing to ask. On that page 24 of the packet, it looks like there's 2 tracks that are identified as property.
Oh, that's my writing. I was trying to research MCAD. Yeah. And I couldn't find those 2 particular tracks documented as being owned.
So yeah, I did talk to the appraisal district directly and have some deed documents to trace the ownership. And so to my best of my ability, the 9x3 ditch is owned by Mud 6 all the way through. There's a small portion or corner that's owned by Howard Hughes. Like for some reason, I don't know exactly where it's, somewhere in this area. There's just like a small little triangle cutout that like comes into the ditch area that's owned by Howard Hughes. And I think they would be a minimal partner to work with on something like this. And so other than that small little corner cutout for the portions that run along the ditch, my understanding is that would be within the jurisdiction of Mud 6. Obviously, there's other areas like where we come out along Sawdust and are trying to avoid going underneath the bridges along the ditch, where that would get into county land, and we'd be working with the county on those portions. And then when you get further south, you get into also county land when you go south of where the ditch kind of exits into the creeks.
Yeah, we'd obviously run that to ground. For some of these areas, they were only easements. We've dealt with that in a number of different places in the Woodlands where the development company only conveyed an easement to the districts, and then they retained fee title. So, if all we have is an easement, we're fairly limited on, what we could provide, an encroachment agreement, so long as it didn't interfere with the rights of our easement. Then they would also have to get approval from the actual underlying fee title owner. So we'd have to.
Howard Hughes now.
Potentially, we'd have to run that to ground. We could order an ownership report from a title company if we have what the tracks are. Probably pull that from MCAD and then request ownership reports from a title company to confirm ownership there. That's really the best way to do it.
So if you run this by the Woodlands in any level of detail, or just the first anyone seeing of this new proposal?
We have, since this is part of the Woodlands Pedestrian Bicycle Master Plan, we've talked to the township before, both staff and board members, and given it to them as a priority. One of the complications and why it hasn't proceeded forward is the amount of different entities that are involved and the logistics. And so that's where Bike the Woodlands said, hey, we'll help with that side of things. Well, we're not able to make progress right now with just the staff, township staff. So that's why we've stepped in to try to help coordinate and talk among the different entities that are involved, as we often see in the Woodlands. And so that's what we're trying to do here, is to, if we can get the right parties involved and agreed and moving in the right direction, then we can make more progress, right?
What is it that you're asking of us now?
So there's two things. One, I mean, it sounds like you may need to do some more due diligence on your side around like ownership and whatnot. So it would be doing any of those steps that you need to confirm ownership. But ultimately, I want to get to be able to grant access for development of the extension along the ditch. And then also the second item was around any capabilities that the MUD has around funding and understanding that.
So there is, I would be curious if maybe you engage the township a little bit further on the funding aspect of it. And timing right now is probably appropriate, just because I know we're getting into budget cycle. But also there is 75% of a 4-phase job for kind of some linear parkways in that, just north of that, but in that area, they're supposed to be slated for next year. So there might be some sort of just tangential consideration for it. I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, but what I would say is I'm generally supportive. If you're asking us for the easement side of it, assuming we run the underground, the ownership piece, I would still be supportive of the amenity. I'm not sure it's appropriate for us to ask MUD 6 residents to potentially fund this, since it's not necessarily within our scope. It's not necessarily MUD infrastructure, or it doesn't provide any services, or whatever the case is. But I think township would probably be more appropriate as far as funding some of the research or feasibility, and then potential construction and maintenance.
Do we know who funded the original pathways along the drainage ditch area?
I don't. I mean, I think, so the linear parks are maintained by the township. I mean, probably starting with Chris Nunes is probably the best point of contact initially, in terms of just understanding whether there would be an appetite for it. But I think they're getting, within the next 60 to 90 days, I'm sure they're kind of getting into the thick of those budget conversations.
What would the desired width and material be of the path?
So the desire would be to continue the current style of, which is a concrete sidewalk pathway. I think this one is not, in some places it's like 8 foot is a kind of standard that the Woodlands did, but because I think probably of concerns like you've mentioned for access to drainage and everything, this is on the smaller side. So I would say it's around maybe 6 feet wide, and along there. So ideally it would be continuing the same kind of material grade and width, but there could be some flexibility as needed if there was some certain areas that we had to adjust or work with.
And they're using asphalt on most of the Millbend Parkway that they're redoing, or Millbend pathway that they're doing. So I'm not sure if they would, what they material.
Yeah, that is the only asphalt area trail, and that's not talking to Chris Nunes. That's not something that they would build more of or do, just because it has a short lifespan and they have to redo it every 4 or 5 years, and they just keep adding layer on layer, and so it's not ideal surface. So if you want a hard surface that's not natural, the concrete would be matching the other pathways throughout the Woodlands.
And whenever the time is appropriate, I think it would, again, if it's the board is in favor of the idea, I think it would be worth going out, walking or running the entire stretch to identify specifics as to what's the appropriate width. There's portions of 9X3 that are fairly narrow, and the maintenance beams throughout the Woodlands vary. Some are a lot wider, some are narrower, and so we would just need to look at that for specifics of width and or what we could do with material.
Yeah, because we would have to identify the ownership piece, but then how does that expand? because I assume you're probably, I mean, if you're talking concrete, I mean, you're gonna need a temporary work area that's gonna be outside of the actual area where the sidewalk is. So that's gonna have to get identified. How many feet is the actual area for the improvement? How many feet outside of that would have to be for a temporary workspace area? Who owns that property? Now, are y'all a legal entity or?
Or nonprofit.
Okay, so you are
I've got one
not,
person.
would y'all be doing this? Sounds like you would be letting the contract yourself as opposed to having the township let the
No,
project?
the contract, we would be looking for the township to take on that.
Okay, so that's because in terms of bonds and insurance and all that stuff, we get into that as well. Okay, so that would require an agreement with the township as well for them to, because it sounds like it would be really in agreement with the township. If they're the ones doing the project, it wouldn't
Yes.
be with.
Yes, ultimately, the agreement would not be, Bike the Woodlands would not be an executing entity.
Okay.
We're acting as a coordinator and trying to
Okay.
facilitate
Okay. Okay.
the project.
Okay.
So you've made a presentation to the township directors and their staff, or just the staff?
So we've talked to Chris Nunes multiple times about this, as staff, John McGowan. And we have communicated via email to board members over several years, and also recently, like Cindy Heiser recently has received this, presentation.
Has it been on their agenda for discussion at one of their board meetings so far?
Not,
Oh,
not
okay.
other, they have not talked in detail on this project. So,
I think
Yeah,
That would be your
I
next,
think-
that would be your
That's
next
the
step.
Contracting with, that's
Exactly.
it would be issuing, not encroachment.
so yeah, I'd be glad to do that. I wanted to at least have like initial, you guys are like, yeah, there's still details to work on, but we're, either in the direction or some sort of something from the mud to say that this is, you're a willing participant, so that they're not throwing up roadblocks to.
And I agree with what Aaron said, I think, I'm in favor of the concept at all. I agree. I'm not sure I'd want my Mud 6 residents to pay a portion of that. But I mean, I wouldn't have any problem with personally, I'm not gonna speak for the board, but personally, I wouldn't have any issue with you telling the township directors that, this Mud director was in favor of the concept. And then, once all the details are worked out, come back to us.
Seems like they're all aligned.
Yeah.
I think you can go to the township and say that you have Mud 6's support, and we could still, I guess, do some background on the ownership.
My recollection, the last time this came up, and it was talking about going under, along the ditch, under the solid roadways. It was concerned about functionality on drainage. So the only piece that would be left there is if Eric, if you're satisfied without having gone and done an actual visual inspection of the path, that there is no drainage impact. I think that would be the only other hurdle from a mud perspective. Yeah, recreation facilities are great for the community. The main thing from a mud, hat is what impact, if any, is there on the functionality of our facilities. If the answer is none, then, okay, now we're just talking about logistics and contracts.
And we would probably need to hear a little bit more from the township as far as materials and what it would look like before we can even weigh in on that, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my biggest, as long as it does not impact that facility, both to increase maintenance or reduce the drainage, then I don't have an issue.
Or if it increased the maintenance, that the township would cover that maintenance
Right.
increase.
Sure strikes me as a goodwill opportunity for the marketing of the Woodlands, not unlike the sculpture right along Woodlands Parkway and Groves Mill.
Oh,
Road.
yeah, not unlike that.
But it's had
Beautiful.
Good point.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. That's an outstanding.
Yeah, like that.
You have our support.
Yes.
Good, thank you guys. Thank you guys for considering this. Yeah, I will contact the township and continue the conversation with them and see, what best next steps we can take based on what their concerns are or direction. But it's good. I think we've accomplished a step here of knowing that we have support and we've alleviated some of the initial concerns. So I appreciate you guys' time and attention in this.
Well, thanks to you for your diligence on this project.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, our goal is just to create a better community, and this is one way to do that, and appreciate you guys supporting that goal and working in the same direction with us. So thank you.
Is this the Viking Trail Appreciation Month or something for the
It is
women?
Bike Month.
Bike Month? Yeah, yeah.
National Bike Month, and we've been doing lots of biking activities throughout the
Yeah.
community and
Okay.
with Bike the Woodlands Day just recently this last weekend. So we still have some
It's
more
entirely
activities.
appropriate.
Yeah.
We have this discussion this particular month.
Really.
Yes.
Okay. And come to a conclusion that we're in support of the concept.
Very much appreciated. If you guys want to participate in any activities, you can check out our website, bikethewoodlands.org. And we have lots of bike rides for any age and ability. So if you're interested, check it out. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. I know there was a time when I did that. Okay, item number 17, we received the regular monthly SJR Woodlands Division report.
Turn it over to Aaron, who has a quick and brief
Yeah,
conversation to have.
conversation. I know y'all have all enjoyed over the years the project plan presentations annually. So one thing, first note is that I think it's on those Google Drive.
This is the one you,
That will be the presentation. It's actually in the packet too.
Okay.
But first, just to note, the project plan itself, the full 10-year plan with all the detailed sheets and the budgets and everything in it is in your Google Drive. I don't think you got a copy of it on hand. But enjoy reading through that when y'all get a chance. But the presentation, Neil, is also starting on page 58 in the full packet. And this presentation has been given to the trustees last week. It was a 40-minute presentation, if not more. So I can do the full 40 minutes, I can do longer, or I can do shorter. So which would y'all prefer?
shorter.
Thank you.
Well, there we go.
Well, sorry,
Took the words out of my mouth. You're perfect.
Having seen it last week.
yeah.
Oh,
Neil's there.
I make that connection. I should make that connection.
So I just want to basically not necessarily go through every slide, but just hit the high points. We plan these projects out at a 10-year period, allows us to schedule accordingly for infrastructure needs before they fail, so we can keep reliable water and wastewater service. Also, we have to plan for larger projects to have the funds available when we get to that point. Well, how do we get to that? How did we get to this point where we're at? Well, over the past several years, I'm flipping just to page, what is that? That always gets 61. Okay, what's this slide with all the photographs on it? So just a variety of examples of the studies we've done the past few years that lead to planning and understanding our infrastructure needs for the next 10 years and where projects seem to occur. Also, we have an asset management plan that each of these falls into and uses for the strategy that they provide. More detail is on the next slide, 62. We can see pretty much 95% of the projects in this project plan, which are 70 projects approximately, come out of a study we've done already. Each of these is by type of facility, given the studies we've already done. Also in this 10-year plan, we have additional studies planned because some of these previous ones over 10 years are going to be 10 years old at some point in the near future. So we want to refresh them. If infrastructure needs change, if operational needs change, or if things that we just find in the field happen and change our priorities. So that's, and then below those, each are a list of the projects that come out of those studies that are in the project plan. The funding for the project plan, probably heard this many times before, transfers from our operational maintenance budget, which Chris will go into discussion on next month, first with the trustees and then with the MUDs. Also, so most of that's R&R funded. However, for some of the very large projects, particularly like the AC water line replacement projects, the Woodlands Parkway replacement project, and the wastewater treatment facility, you can't afford those projects with just transfers to R&R pay as you go. So other funding sources are needed for those. We did have some remaining bonds we got in 2017, which are going to pay for about $10 million or $22 million worth more projects in the future. For everything else is unfunded as of right now. And so for the first two projects of the water line replacements, that's where you have that supplementary agreement that y'all been discussing for the past month or so to fund those potentially. And we also did get a federal grant for one project as well. So 64 budget schedule, with the project plan this month with the trustees of MUDs, O&M budget, which ultimately is what gets approved with the R&R or the project plan in it. 2027 discussed next month. Then the MUDs in July will direct their trustee on how to vote for the O&M budget for 2027, and then August is when the vote actually occurs. Slide 65, that's one thing I want to make a little bit more attention to. In the past couple of years, our project plan for the 10-year period has been a little over $700 million total. As you can see, though, the proposed project plan for 2027 has dropped more than half, $353 million. Reason for that is the only thing that we're proceeding with as of right now for wastewater treatment facility 1 is that owner's advisor study using the SFDUE data that was acquired through the Woodlands Water Study and historical data to right size the plant or see what the right size for the plant may be, and also then plan for a repair and or replace in place strategy for the infrastructure in the plant. So no new plant. Replace in place, that's the direction we've been given. And so that's where most of that money went to, the projects that had been planned before for, say, a new plant or some other way of having the plant installed. Also, some of the AC line projects were deferred from that recent study. They found they could be pushed out a little bit, so they got outside that 10-year period. But not to say that's where we want to stay, because if you look at slide 66, look at plant 1, there are still, things that we potentially will have to do, or we pretty much know we have to do at some point in the future. The study will tell us when, how much, where, all those type of questions, which we do not have the answers to right now. Based upon just rough calculations of the infrastructure, we know we do need to replace probably in the next 10 years, you're looking at an additional $75 to $150 million. However, the owner's advisor study will nail that down to what additional costs would need to be put in the project plan in the future. With that being said, is there any questions on the strategy of the project plan and the major changes as far as the amounts?
I just had a question.
Yeah.
The change from a selection process to a mandated repair and excuse me, in place approach to the wastewater treatment plant. So we've got a memo. Did you write that memo, Ed, about telling us how it was going to be done?
The joint efforts between Chris and myself.
Oh, so who do I ask?
Well,
Well, there's two memos. The one that went to the trustees in March, I think it was, or the one that went April. The one that went to the trustees in April, or the one that went to the MUDs in April. Because there's one he presented and one I presented. They're both joint, but
the April one is the more current,
Okay. Okay.
and that's the one where we talked about dropping the other three scenarios and going straight to the repair and flex.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at. The process for going through that decision making. I know we just have a service agreement, but just an inquiry.
You're asking what prompted us to change direction?
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is that the question?
That's good enough.
through various conversations Chris and I have had along with other mud directors. It was pretty obvious to us that we weren't going to get their support, or we would not have a majority of support to do all 4 scenarios, to finish the study of all 4 scenarios. And there are pieces of the plant that are needing some attention pretty soon. And so it was time to make a decision without having to create a political turmoil.
Pragmatism is the pathway forward.
And I probably could have said that better without using that P word, but
Yeah. Okay, I'm good.
all right.
Interesting that there was approval to fund the study without the intent of was,
Exactly.
considering the
You-
recommendations.
Yeah, that's not,
You know where I was gonna go, but I'm gonna dig that one up, so to speak.
any more questions?
No.
So, next 19 slides. For this slideshow, we present the projects that have either started in this fiscal year, which is 26 right now, and moving into 27, or ones that'll start in 27. I'm not going to go through the detail on all those again. The project plan and their Google Drive has all that detailed information on them. But it is what will go into the O&M budget. Like I said, everything else beyond that, we try to plan as best as we can, all subject to change though, particularly with further studies or just things that arise out of the blue. 2 projects though, just to note though, well, first 2 in the section, 68 and 69, Tyne Center Waterline Project and Woodlands Parkway Waterline Project. Again, Town Center has been funded for design and has been under design for quite some time with R&R funds. However, anything beyond that, land acquisition and construction, we do not have funding for. The Woodlands Parkway Waterline replacement, both of those which were identified as those tier 1 projects, has no funding at all as of right now. So that's what that supplemental agreement's all about. Going through the rest of the projects though, primarily R&R funded, water well rehabilitation projects. We do have some projects in here that we use those remaining 2017 bonds for, particularly at wastewater plant 2. And then we have the owner's advisor 76. So we talked about continuing that for the right size of plant 1. Make a note of force main renewal projects on 3 lines that have almost completely deteriorated away. So we need to figure out how to rehab them or replace them. Slide 83 is the project we did get federal funds for, Lift Station 24, because it's flooded numerous times. So that's primarily a flood mitigation grant that we got. And we will be able to do some other improvements while we're at the same time. Some other components that wastewater plants 2 and 3. And then the last one identified is South Shore Gravity Main Rehab, large rehabilitation of a gravity main south or east, south, and west of Lake Woodlands, kind of in the Woodlands Parkway area. One other thing I want to make note of is on slide 87. It's this one where it says ongoing maintenance projects. Till now, we've had these large projects like the wells, the gravity mains, the water lines, and the project plan. However, we also had smaller maintenance projects that were kind of funded on an ongoing basis in the O&M budget. Well, the decision was made this year to just transfer those projects, those ongoing ones, also into the project plan out of the O&M budget. Same, the money is all coming from the same place. It's just where you have it and how it's funded, how it's deposited throughout the year. So things like manhole rehabs, painting at plants, valve replacements, that'll all now be in the project plan. Moving on to the summaries, dollar amounts. So for FY27, only 27. Looking at funding roughly $13 million worth of R&R funded projects. Those 2017 bonds, which we have roughly $23 million worth of left. And 27, we'll utilize roughly $10 million worth of those. Federal funding, we have $1.25 million total. So out of that, we'll spend $958,000 in 27 and the rest in 28. Non-funded projects, that's Town Center Water Line and Woodlands Parkway Water Line. So unfunded, as of right now, $15.3 million. Total anticipated spend in 27 of $39 million. We do have a current balance in our R&I fund of roughly $30 million. So we have enough to finish FY26 projects and pre-fund FY27 projects. Moving on to the next slide, 89, this is where you get the grand totals over the 10-year period. Of course, like I said, subject to change. R&R funded projects, $101 million. 2017 bonds utilizing the remainder of what we had left. So a total of $23 million. A federal funding, like I said, using what we got. And then non-funded projects. So we're talking about not only Town Center and Woodlands Parkway, but all the other AC water line replacement projects for that 10-year period that were identified, as well as a group of gravity sewer rehab projects, pretty large in scale, that were identified by a previous study. They're right now scheduled for the latter 5 years of the project plan. However, we're going to do another study right before then to reevaluate, I&I, the corrosion and the deterioration of those pipes, see how they've tracked over the past, what would be about 10 years by that time, and see, are they deteriorating at the rate we thought they would be? Do they need to be rehabbed as soon as we thought they would need to be? And to the extent of what we thought they needed to be. So that could change as well, but those are also currently unfunded. One other thing is that for the past several years, transfers from the O&M budget to R&R have been $6 million total per year. Looking at 27, increasing that by $250,000 and tracking it as well into the future. And as far as those $227,000 or $227 million worth of unfunded projects, the last two slides are a list of those projects separated by water and wastewater projects. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions y'all might have right now. As mentioned, Chris will be bringing the O&M budget next month, first to the trustees and then the MUDs for discussion.
Thank you very much.
And if y'all have any, just be sure to send them to Eric Peterson as it's on the slide.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Thanks.
Item number 18, receive and discuss the draft fiscal year 2027 SJR Woodlands Division budget.
That'll be next month.
Next month? Okay. Item 19, consider an act on the supplemental agreement with SJRA for the issuance of bonds in connections with the Tier 1 water line renewal projects, including the discussion of timing of Tier 1 water line renewal projects and a review of the district payment options.
Yes, associated with that is this handout here, not the green one, that one. The front page is just basically a summary of the larger 4 pages behind it. There was just a question of what would the impact be related to the first 2 tranches for the water line renewal projects. Recall from the last couple of months, the first bond was about 32 million, the second bond was about 30 million or so. And you can see there for a 20-year bond and 25-year bonds, what that monthly water, but top above the line is for water rates. And so it'd be $4.53 roughly per month for the average water customer. And then $4.27 for the second bond. That would be over the next 2 to 5 years or so implementation on the rates. And then just so you can see the impact, the difference, if you did it on the tax rates, you can see that below as it relates to the average homestead. don't know that that really makes sense at this point to go to the voters for $4, $5.
Yeah.
But certainly when the wastewater treatment plant comes back around, you'll have that. You can probably get updated cost estimates on tier 2 water line projects. And you may even put the second tranche into that same mix and say, okay, now does it make sense to entertain the tax side versus the water? That's something to entertain at that point. So nothing more on that, just more information.
Question? Okay. There's no, item 20, discussion regarding consolidation.
Oh,
Oh,
I have a
we're
question.
doing, okay,
There was an act on the supplemental.
we're not acting today.
We're not acting today.
I believe you.
Well, didn't we authorize you last?
The actual supplemental, yes.
Yeah, we
We put
authorized.
this on there so we could.
Yeah, we kept the same item on all the agendas. We did receive comments. So y'all approved it, Metro approved it. We received comments from a handful of other directors. We're looking to incorporate that into a revised draft that we'll have either June or July for the boards to consider. And then we'll bring that back to you all.
Oh, okay. Right. Sounds good.
So this is a uniform item for everybody.
All right.
Item 20, which is the discussion regarding consolidation with the Woodlands Municipal Utility District Number 1 and Montgomery County Municipal Utility District 36. There's no update on that at this point, so just keep it on the agenda. Attorney's report,
Nothing additional?
General Manager's report.
Okay, page 93 starts the general manager report. On 93, you'll see the open projects. Those are projects that are either resident or commercial development is making adjustments, redevelopment or new. So we have 178 open projects at the moment. That's where we review drawings, do inspections, things like that out in the field. Last month, we had 44 inspections on those types of projects. We had over 1,200 work orders that we went through last month as well. Last few months, we've been talking about all the ditch work that we've been doing. So we provided this colored sheet here that gives you kind of an indication of some of the work that's being done throughout the Woodlands in various districts. We started with, areas where we could group repairs together, and we're gonna, work through the rest of this as we go. This is all stuff that was approved through the budgets last month. So we'll continue to update this as we make progress. And then our disc crews have also, as they started a couple months ago, they've been in doing brush trimming and minor desiltation as well. So more work to do. I want to remind you that AWD conference is in June. If you have interest in attending, talk to Shelley about getting help setting or getting registered for that. That's June 18th to the 20th. We are looking to have a new director orientation. Obviously, we have no new directors here, but that'll be June 12th, where we'll put the new directors through an orientation. We are looking at doing a possible all-mud meeting to get everybody up to speed, particularly the new directors, on the water line renewal stuff. And so we've got some legal things we need to do to get a location set as a approved location since the community center is no longer. And so we'll need to do that next month and then identify a date on when we can get that meeting set up. Also in the packet is on page 114, there's a letter from GRP, just give you information on the global amendment that you've heard about the last couple of months and the associated pro rata vote share for Woodlands Division, which is 22%, which I believe is the highest percentage voter of that. And recall that global amendment will need 85% approval in order to pass. So that's some more information there. And then in the back, you'll see a number of customer thank yous, where a couple even went out of their way to write an actual thank you note. Put it
Yeah,
down.
well, that's
Yeah, of
Very cool.
very nice.
Always like seeing those
course.
and sharing those with y'all. So with that, I will kick it to John for communications.
John, before you start, I just want to tell you, You did a great job at the Grogan's Mill Village Association Board meeting. It was,
Well, thanks for turning out all those people for me.
you picked a great time to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Page 105 for your report. So we're ending up our second quarter with the heightened focus on water quality last 3 months. We're going to transition to water conservation for the summer. Of course, we're also messaging on a variety of other topics all the time. You can see the main ones there at the top of 105. We have also wrapped up our pilot program at Teff Elementary with fifth graders on a water education, water conservation program. So they got a TEKS correlated classroom instruction component. And then they also had a take-home water conservation kit that they implemented with their parents. And then they report back on that. So there is parent involvement as well. We're going to be assessing that, seeing what kind of adjustments we might want to make with the goal to bringing that to all fifth graders next school year. Right. Yeah, on that one. Okay.
Great age for that too.
Page 106, at the top there, you'll see Eric with the shiny award in his hand there. We got the Watermark Award from TAWWA for communication excellence. That was tied to our Water Smart initiative and how we were able to drive registration from less than 20% to over 80% in just a few years.
Yes.
And definitely want to note that that's not a communication award. That is an agency award that a lot of departments and hands in making it happen. Once you get that, you got samples of current communications here on the next few pages. Article on water quality is currently in Woodlands Community Magazine. You can see that on page 109. And any questions? Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
Trustees report.
Okay, trustees report starts at page 110 in the packet, going to page 112. So just a couple of things to mention. Just mentioned at the trustee meeting that there will be a delay in returning excess funds, so that will be in June. Some glitch in the amount that went before the board, SJRE board. One thing that keeps recurring is the water loss discussion. Just to be aware in the trustee meeting, and that's continues to be looked at. Everything else has been pretty well covered, including the cybersecurity. We now have the active links via the electronic version of that document that was sent out that Brian talked about. If you have any questions on the trustee report, let me know.
Okay. There's no need to.
There's not.
So, any minors you want included on next month's agenda?
Just those ones that we discussed on the draft.
The continued.
Yeah.
That being said, make it adjourned.
Thank you.
We did. That was that presentation. I thought we were going to be here a lot longer.
That was a full